Imagine waking up to breaking news, naval skirmishes in the South China Sea, warships on high alert, and military bases in Southeast Asia preparing for a potential conflict. Could this be the start of something big? And where does the Philippines stand in all of this? Today, we uncover the real story behind Southeast Asia's growing security crisis and what it means for the world. The big picture. Why Southeast Asia is a military hotspot. Southeast Asia is more than just beautiful islands and bustling megacities. It's one of the most strategically important regions in the world. Sitting between the Pacific and Indian Oceans, it controls vital shipping routes where 1/3 of global trade passes through. And where there's economic power, there's military tension. For decades, Southeast Asia enjoyed relative peace, but now the situation is shifting fast. Military buildups, territorial disputes, and superpower competition have made the region one of the most unpredictable battlegrounds for global influence. Rising tensions in the South China Sea, a dangerous game. The South China Sea has long been a hotspot for geopolitical tensions, but recent developments suggest that the situation is reaching a boiling point. At the heart of this crisis is China's aggressive expansion, marked by the construction of artificial islands equipped with military installations, runways, and missile systems. Despite international rulings such as the 2016 Permanent Court of Arbitration, ruling in The Hague, which declared China's territorial claims under the 9-dash line invalid, Beijing continues to assert control over vast portions of the sea, often in direct defiance of its neighbors. A region in dispute. The South China Sea is not just about sovereignty, it's a vital global artery for trade, with an estimated $3.4 trillion worth of goods passing through its waters annually. Multiple countries, including the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, Indonesia, Brunei, and Taiwan, have competing claims over various islands, reefs, and fishing zones. However, China's growing naval dominance has made it increasingly difficult for these nations to push back without risking escalation. The latest flashpoint. Tensions flared once again recently when Chinese vessels engaged in a dangerous confrontation with the Philippine Coast Guard near Scarborough Shoal, one of the most contested maritime territories. Reports indicate that Chinese ships used water cannons to block Philippine vessels from accessing the area, further inflaming an already volatile situation. The incident has sparked outrage in Manila, with Philippine leaders vowing to defend their territorial rights while calling on international allies for support. A brewing storm, the risk of military conflict. This latest clash raises a troubling question. How long before a small-scale naval encounter spirals into a full-blown conflict? China's continued militarization of the region has put neighboring nations in a precarious position. Any miscalculation or unintentional collision could ignite a much larger confrontation. The United States, which has a mutual defense treaty with the Philippines, has reiterated its commitment to protecting its allies. U.S. naval forces have increased their patrols in the region, conducting freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's claims. Meanwhile, other regional players, such as Japan and Australia, have also stepped up military cooperation with Southeast Asian nations, signaling broader international concern over Beijing's actions. The path forward: diplomacy or confrontation? Despite the rising tensions, diplomatic efforts continue. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, has been working to negotiate a long-delayed code of conduct with China to manage disputes peacefully. However, with Beijing showing little willingness to compromise, many fear that negotiations may be nothing more than a delaying tactic while China consolidates its control. As the world watches, the South China Sea remains one of the most dangerous flashpoints in modern geopolitics. Will diplomacy succeed in preventing a larger conflict, or are we witnessing the slow march toward a major military showdown? What do you think? Is an armed conflict inevitable, or can tensions be managed through diplomacy? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. U.S. military in the Philippines, a game changer or a dangerous gamble? For decades, the Philippines has walked a tightrope between major global powers, balancing its historical ties with the United States while managing its increasingly complex relationship with China. But now the stakes have never been higher. Enter the United States. A longtime ally of the Philippines, Washington has significantly ramped up its military presence in the region, reopening military bases, deploying warships, and conducting joint exercises, all sending a clear and undeniable message. Beijing's growing influence in the South China Sea will not go unchecked. At the heart of this strategic shift lies the Enhanced Defense Cooperation Agreement, EDCA, a deal that grants U.S. forces access to 9 key military bases across the Philippines. These locations are no coincidence. Some are strategically positioned near Taiwan, while others sit along the contested waters of the South China Sea, a hotspot of geopolitical tensions. For many, this newfound military partnership is a welcome shield against an increasingly assertive China, whose expansionist policies and territorial claims have threatened Philippine sovereignty for years. Yet for others, the U.S. presence is not just about defense, it's about power projection. The Philippines, they argue, is being pulled into a much larger chess game, one where it could easily become a battlefield in a future conflict between superpowers. Protection or provocation? The question is simple. Is this truly safeguarding the Philippines, or is it dragging the country into an inevitable showdown? On one hand, U.S. military backing strengthens Manila's deterrence against any potential Chinese aggression. The presence of American troops, fighter jets, and missile systems makes it clear that any attack on the Philippines would not go unchallenged. But on the other hand, history warns us that military buildups can also escalate tensions rather than diffuse them. Beijing has already responded with aggressive rhetoric and increased naval activity near Philippine waters. Chinese warships have shadowed Philippine vessels, and new military installations have sprung up on artificial islands, clear signs that the region is inching closer to a dangerous tipping point. So where does this lead? Will the Philippines emerge stronger with the U.S. by its side, or is it being turned into a pawn in a much larger geopolitical conflict? What do you think? Is the U.S. military presence a safeguard for the Philippines, or a ticking time bomb for war? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. The role of China, ASEAN, and regional powers. China isn't backing down. With a rapidly expanding military budget, it has deployed hypersonic missiles, aircraft carriers, and the world's largest navy to assert dominance over the South China Sea and beyond. Beijing's strategy is clear: control vital shipping lanes, enforce its territorial claims, and challenge U.S. influence in the region. The presence of artificial islands, heavily fortified military bases, and increasing naval patrols signals that China is prepared for a long-term geopolitical contest. Meanwhile, ASEAN nations like Indonesia, Malaysia, and the Philippines are caught in a precarious balancing act. While they strive for neutrality, economic dependencies and security concerns may soon force them to take a definitive stance. The Philippines, for instance, has deepened its defense ties with the U.S., allowing American forces greater access to strategic military bases, moves that have sparked sharp warnings from Beijing. Vietnam, a historical rival of China, is quietly strengthening its military, purchasing advanced weaponry from Russia and the West, preparing for any scenario. At the heart of this tension is Taiwan. If conflict erupts over the self-governed island, the entire region will be dragged into the crossfire. Southeast Asia's strategic waterways would become battlegrounds for global superpowers, and ASEAN nations would face immense pressure to either align with the U.S. and its allies or accommodate China's growing power. The consequences: disrupted trade, economic turmoil, and the real threat of a full-scale war. The region stands at a crossroads. Will ASEAN nations resist being pulled into a new Cold War? Or will they be forced to pick sides in what could become the most significant geopolitical clash of the 21st century? What could happen next? Future scenarios. So what happens next? Experts believe there are 3 possible scenarios: increased military tensions but no direct war, just more naval standoffs and political maneuvering. Right now, the situation could go either way. But one thing is certain: Southeast Asia is becoming one of the most dangerous flashpoints in modern geopolitics. What do you think? Is the region headed for war, or will diplomacy prevail? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay updated on the latest military and geopolitical news.